Thank you, Strobe, for that setup. Thank you, Dr. Kim, for your kind introduction. I have a sense of deja vu right now because I was working in the Congress in 1994 when we had another big change, and I recall that night when I was trying to go to sleep, I would think of yet another way in which Republican control of the House of Representatives would change my life, and then I'd start to drop off to sleep, and then I'd think of another one, and I never got to sleep. I think the subject of the morning today is very important. I would start by noting that although President Obama's, or candidate Obama's campaign was very much about change, he understood very clearly that one place in the world that didn't require a lot of change in U.S. policy was East Asia. And so, you know, there were modest changes, but by and large, there was a lot of continuity. And the reason for this, I think, is that in most respects, U.S. policy towards East Asia is bipartisan. We have differences over tactics, but we don't have differences over goals and strategies. For example, the George W. Bush administration came to the idea of sort of shaping China's rise by encouraging it to engage in major power cooperation on the big issues of the day, and the Obama administration simply continued that idea. Now, of course, you know, the Obama administration had faced a number of surprises once it got into office and began to continue to implement U.S. policy. North Korea was a big one, with the missile test and the nuclear test in 2009. Japan was a big surprise because of the victory of the DPJ and all the problems that created. Maritime issues, I think, surfaced in a way that was not necessarily expected. I think we knew that these problems were going on, but they were more salient than expected. There were some positive developments in the first year. China did, by and large, seek to work with the United States on a number of issues, including North Korea. The China-Taiwan relationship was going well, and the relationship with the ROK was positive and consolidated. The surprises, of course, necessitated adjustments in the basic policy, and we've seen those subsequently. In this past year, the main negative development has again been North Korea and the Chonan tragedy and the Yongpyeong-do attack last week. Also surprising has been China. And I don't think China has necessarily changed its basic policies, but it is implementing them in ways that challenge more the interests of U.S. friends and allies in Asia and require a response from them and a response from us. That's really worked to the benefit of the United States, but it does raise questions, you know, what's going on? And are we seeing a new China? Do we have to give up on our hope of a China that plays a constructive role in world affairs? Now, with respect to the new political situation in the United States, what's the effect on East Asia policy? I certainly think that there will be some change in the conduct of relations between the executive branch and the legislature. There will be a different tone, a more suspicious tone on the part of Republican House members about U.S. policy. The most obvious way in which the Republican House will use its powers is through conducting investigations on a variety of issues, and you may recall that in the late 1990s there were a number of these with respect to China, and that complicated China policy a great deal. I think we can all hope that that East Asian policy does not become a target of Republican investigation. As far as the content of policy is concerned, I'm not sure that the election is going to have that profound an effect. I'm first of all optimistic on chorus because I think a good case can be made. It's in the economic interest of our country. Also, North Korea has reminded us only last week that chorus FTA has not only an economic significance but a strategic significance as well, and we can sort of extract that silver lining from the dark cloud of last week. With respect to North Korea policy in general, I think that the reality is that the Obama administration has a pretty tough policy as it is. It's not one that Republicans find a lot to disagree with. And unlike the situation in the 1990s, when the Clinton administration needed money from the Republican Congress in order to carry out the agreed framework, President Obama doesn't need a nickel from the Congress to conduct current U.S. policy. I think that there's potential for some division with respect to China, not only on economic issues but also on sort of security issues as well. I think that the United States and China have a good opportunity to sort of reset our relationship after the difficulties of 2010, when President Hu is in Washington, D.C. Next month. But I can't guarantee that reset will occur. If it doesn't, then we could have difficulties both with China and within the United States. I guess my bottom line prediction is that because East Asia policy is by and large bipartisan, we can have some expectation that there will be continuity, and I think that's very good for the Republic of Korea. But I would also say that because I worked on Capitol Hill for 12 years, I know that anything can happen. And so the possibility of surprise that would just wipe out my other prediction is always there. So keep your fingers crossed and keep your eyes open. Thank you very much.